didn't come free. It came with the blood, sweat, and tears of our comrades. It was a paradigm shift that opened new vistas and ushered in our second liberation. In pursuit of higher strategic goals, the progressive movement entered into an unavoidable compromise. However, despite the major successes, forging a relatively progressive nation with the introduction of a new constitution, with a Bill of Rights, which guarantees and entrenches fundamental freedoms, Kenya remains a highly unequal society, where a significant percentage continues to live in abject poverty, where hunger stalks many communities, where the dreams of equity and social justice are a far cry. Our political leadership and the ruling elite continue to disappoint, and our country continues to underperform and fail its citizens. It is a time of growing uncertainty and economic crisis. The state has failed to create an enabling environment for growth and equity. There are fears that our nation is losing its sense of direction. As I read through Oduor's memoirs and revisit the historic and important political advances we have made in recent years, I must say that we are very, very far from the economic emancipation that would have lifted millions of our people from the morass of poverty and underdevelopment. We remain in the clutches of a cruel economic system. And I look towards Karl Marx, who gave us a better understanding and clarity to the dialectical relationship between the old and the new, and the dilemma we find ourselves in today. In his 18th Brumaire of Louis Bonaparte, he stated, "Men make their own history, but they don't make it as they please. They don't make it under self-selected circumstances, but under circumstances existing already, given and transmitted from the past. The tradition of old dead generation waits. The traditions of dead generations waits like a nightmare on the brains of the living. And just as they seem to be occupied with revolutionizing themselves and things, creating something that did not exist before, precisely in such epoch of revolutionary crisis, they anxiously conjure up the spirits of the past to their service. That is why we need to be eternally vigilant, defend and protect our democratic gains, and redouble our efforts in the just struggle for equity and social justice for all. I want to give a message to the young people of Kenya. My challenge to you is to discover your mission. In the words of Frantz Fanon, every generation must, out of relative obscurity, discover its mission, fulfill or betray it. When you discover it, you will find it's an irresistible urge and a burning desire to work and act on it. I want to say that we have a long way to go. And I would like to finish by the quote from a song by our national poet Abdulatif Abdallah, "Wasafiri msichoke, safari ni ndefu. Aluta continua, Victoria etc. Msichoke, tuendelee mbele, tubadilishe nchi yetu, tulete mageuzi halisi ambayo yatawainua wanyonge na tuwe na uhuru kamili wa uhuru na kiuchumi." Asanteni sana.
Mama Mheshimiwa Wahu Kahara to come and give her remarks at this important occasion. This is one revolutionary who has worked very closely with Oduor over the last 3 decades, and it has been a huge impact in our social and economic transformation as a country. Mheshimiwa Wahu.
Our Excellence, our own President, Raila Amolo Odinga. People speak what is in their hearts. I have spoken what's in my heart. And it has been said very well that this gathering does not observe the obvious protocols. So I'm not observing any protocol because I'm addressing comrades. Comrades, viva! Comrades, viva! A luta continua! A luta continua! And victory is certain. Victory is certain. It's not very far. Ndugu Ongwen. Ndugu Ongwen, ni nini hiki umezaa? Ama umezalisha? Ama kimezaliwa? Haya ni maajabu ya utu. And I will not go very far from the title of the book, because I have not even seen the book. I was told to come here yesterday. But from the title of the book, Stronger Than Faith. What is that can be stronger than faith? I'll tell you, and I am a retired teacher and still ongoing. And I read history, I teach history, and I learn history. So I will speak the title of this book from that perspective. And what is stronger than faith is patriotism. 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 Uzalendo. Tuko hapa kwa sababu ya mzalendo ndugu yetu Oduor Ongwen. I have no, sina tashwishi, hata siwezi kuogopa kusema hakuna mzalendo ambaye mwingine tungeongea juu yake wakati huu kuliko ndugu Oduor Ongwen. And when we talk about patriotism, the good thing about patriotism, and that is why it is stronger than faith, because it's a spirit that nobody can kill. No forces of arms, misinformation, miseducation can kill patriotism. When a human spirit decides to locate itself on patriotism, nothing can shake that. And that's why comrades have always continued to say, even before us, the struggle goes on, a luta continua, and we even affirm victory is certain, like I'm affirming here. And I'm happy because we have talked about the struggle. I am happy because we are not shy of the struggle. And we are saying the struggle is ongoing. Where are the fighters? That is the question. And I think this launch of this book is making a wake-up call to anyone who imagines or who envisions a world that can work good for humanity. And it is because our comrade and brother Oduor Ongwen has walked this march and has walked with other people and continues to walk. My celebration tonight is because I have lived that struggle, and I have believed that the struggle will continue and victory is ours. We know people went to exile, others went to prison, others went wherever. But hardly do we even remember there were others who remained home and were doing all those things. They were in a bigger prison, they were in a tougher jail, and they were everywhere that nobody was there. We who were left behind, my late husband, Karawa Macharia, went to exile, and we became like we have a contagious problem. The day they threw out Mama Ida Odinga from Kenya High School, the following day they came to throw me out of a school I was in Muranga called Geda Girls. So you can see we are living to tell without bitterness. We are living to tell without bitterness. I am a happy Kenyan woman, African, and especially when I'm standing here to celebrate this launch of what is stronger than faith, patriotism. What can I say when in this sitting I see my one and only teacher, Professor Edward Onyugi, who provoked my patriotism as a young girl at the university. I remember that psychology lesson when you provoked my young mind to understand that society is class stratified. And I was getting an education to serve the class that does not care about other people. And you posed a question, what would be our choice? I chose the choice, and we have worked with you, Professor. Many ways. When you are in prison, you know I came to see you. Those who are in exile, I can see Waroiru here. You saw me in Tanzania, even if I was a civil servant. I could cross borders and come back home. Why not? And as I say this, I am happy to see my own son here. If my eyes are not giving me away, I can see Maura Kara here. So the struggle is ongoing. The struggle is ongoing. And victory is certain. The only energy that you must arm yourself with is patriotism. I like microphones, especially when we are talking about patriotism. I can be here longer than perhaps the time that I'm allowed. But I want just to say, we sitting here is a celebration. Launching this book written by our own Odweru Ongwen is a celebration. And having one of our own, Comrade Raila Amolo Odinga, among us, we have won. Sijui mnangojea mashindano gani ama ushindi gani? Ama mlikuwa mkishindana na nani? That book talks of where people were talking in whispers. Under the beds. You never even trusted your wife or your husband. You didn't know who was at the back or in front or the side. But now we are here in one of the institutions that is built not for this kind of sessions. When they were building this institution, their vision was not us to come here and celebrate the launch stronger than faith. This auditorium was built for other things. But do you see the truth? The truth sets humanity free. And that's why patriotism never goes wrong, because it is built on the truth. It is built by those who can understand, appreciate, and choose to have truth that sets them free, to liberate their spirit, and they can die for what they believe in, and they can hold to the ideals that means a lot to their lives, and they can together work with one another and with each other, not for conspiracies and not for hide-and-seek games, but openness with a clear objective that justice is for all of us. And we'll be brave, courageous, and speak truth to power.
Yes.
And say, like, for example, when they talk about deaths, they should know why the debts are there. Because the debt is not money. You don't owe me money or anything. It's the way you want to dominate and control my spirit as a being, as a nation, as society. And unless we call the right things for what they are, unless we stand up patriotically to deal with this institutionalized menace, which is very demonic, of oppression, of domination and control, a principality that very few people understand, a principality which is very well inbuilt across nations and across all continents. And that's why, as we talk about globalization today, and they say the globe is a village, all what we are being told is that that era is over, and now we need to globalize hope and to globally construct nations that allow people to pursue their self-determination and for the good of all, so that we emancipate our governance, our economics, our education, and our values, our everything, a total overhaul. New wine in new wineskin, those who understand that language. And for us patriots, there is no table to negotiate. It's either we are a Kenyan nation to build our own nation, as the preamble of our constitution talks about, and mark you, I was in the constitutional process, from the streets to Bomas. I was 521 delegate, and I went up to Captiva Watch, waking you up, you Kenyans, to defend your constitution, which you did not. So you must go back to the trenches and retrieve Article 1, sovereignty of the people. What is sovereignty of the people? Is to reconstruct and build a Kenyan nation, a Kenyan state with the Kenyan mind, so that we throw out these colonial hang-ups and heritages of reconstruction, of domination and control as a principality. So, my dear comrades, as we launch Stronger Than Faith, what is that? It is patriotism. And we celebrate a patriot son from Siaya, who I embrace, and you know I'm your Nyawanda. So, all these issues, today is a celebration. We have won one step, and one step can go 1,000 steps. I want to see the liberation of Kenya as I age gracefully. But I want to tell you, I have energy even to carry the 20 kilograms if you want with the AK-47, although the AK-47 is not necessary now. So, Aluta, and victory, Hamuna salute, Aluta, wewe wachana na zi simu, Aluta, victory. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. That is our great Mwalimu Wahukara. This country is very fortunate to have people like this, and that is why we should be very brave. Although, you know, this election, the 2022 election, was a battle between those who wanted the story of Kenya not to be told, and those of us who wanted the story of Kenya to be told. Are you aware of that? It was very evident. 2022, we were told that we should not talk about the history of this country. We were told that the only thing that we should say is Bwana asifiwe, and that's enough. But we say that's not enough, because our faith is not all about the vision of the Kenya we want. And Your Excellency, I want to say this, that since independence, one of the things that has happened in this country, since independence is that the true mothers of the struggle have never had a chance to show what our vision was about. Those who have always been in the struggle have always been shortchanged. And that is why the co-wife, you know, if you give birth to an healthy baby and you give it to the co-wife who wanted the baby to die, can that co-wife give good food to the baby? The co-wife cannot, because she wanted the baby to die before the baby was born. And that is why even those who oppose the Constitution are now the ones who are being told that they can implement the Constitution faithfully. It's not possible. And Mama Wao, thank you so much for making that point very, very clear. Now, before we bring Odor on stage, we have one remark from our comrade, our sister from Vita Books, Nosim Naimasia. Please welcome her to make a quick remark from Vita Books before we bring Odor Ongwen on stage. Welcome on stage.
Thank you. Viva, comrades, viva!
Viva!
Viva, comrades, viva!
Viva!
Power to the people! Afrika moja! Afrika moja! Thank you very much, comrades, friends, and most importantly, Your Excellency, Raila Odinga, and our distinguished author, our celebrated author, Odor Ongwen, for giving us this opportunity to be here. And we are very excited to have published this book and to have been involved in the publishing of this book, a very important book. My name is Nosim Naimasia, and I'll be representing our publisher, Vita Books, Struggle Books. I would like to share a few thoughts with you this evening on publishing in Kenya and the critical nature of Stronger Than Faith, my journey in the quest for justice in repressive Kenya, 1958 to 2015. This book is released at a significant juncture in our country, at a time when history as an academic subject, as a social discourse, as an existential necessity, is being alarmingly erased from the public sphere. As my friend said to me recently, we still have to make the argument that we are real peoples, and in the 21st century, to Africans. From the historical studies of the 7423 curriculum in post-independent Kenya, to the partitioned GHC, which is what I learned, of the Moy's 844 system, to the current nebulous social studies of the CBC curriculum, the concerns have moved from decolonizing pedagogy and history to having any history at all taught in our schools. And we see the carnage wrought on a generation of people who do not know who they are. The intimate violence, the suicides, the murders that have become a normalized staple on our televisions are in great part the consequence of a people who do not know where they are coming from and who do not know where they are going. And that is exactly what our author, Odor Ongwen's book, seeks to do. Show us to ourselves in the most visceral form of our humanity. It is only in this way that victories can be celebrated and repeated, our pain understood and healed, and our patterns of failure exposed and learned from. I'll start by giving a few details about Vita Books and indicate why it chose to publish the book we have all gathered here to launch. Vita Books is an independent Kenyan publisher supporting people's struggles to create societies based on the principles of equality and justice. It aims to redress working people's lack of power over information, communication, and the media, which then restricts their access to ideas and experiences to resist imperialism. It strives to connect and unite progressive people everywhere in their battles for justice and equality for everyone. It publishes material with focus on people's resistance to imperialism and their struggle for socialism. It is one of the organizations that set up Ukombozi Library and works closely with it. As a publisher working with the library, we connect with a number of community groups whose libraries we support by donating titles published by Vito Books. A book launch like this is usually a good occasion to talk about books. So today we would like to share our thoughts on a few books that have had an impact on Kenya, its history, and its people. This is particularly relevant as the book we are launching today is one that will definitely have such an impact. The first book is by Barnett and Jama, 1996, Mau Mau from Within. There is no time at this busy event to get into the details about this book, but suffice it to say that it provided perhaps the first detailed published account on Mau Mau, a subject not yet fully explored by our history. We wonder if this title made it to your list. The second book on our list has defined an entire era of post-independence Kenya. It is simple, titled, captured the imagination of several generations. This is Odinga's Not Yet Uhuru in 1967. The book sums up the struggle for liberation in Kenya from colonial forces, but perhaps more significant, it examines the obstacles to Uhuru, which is where Kenya took a wrong turn and fell into the clutches of imperialism. Significantly, the foreword is by Kwame Nkrumah. This is a book you should have on your bookshelf. The third book is an unmatched record of the trade union movement in Kenya by Makan Singh, The History of Trade Union Movements in 1992. Not in 1992, sorry, 1952. It documents the author's detention and house arrest in India for almost 5 years and in Kenya. And this did not stop him from documenting perhaps the only comprehensive history of the trade union movement in Kenya. History and Kenyans would have been poorer without this record of the struggles of the working class, which came to influence the National War of Independence. The fourth book is remarkable in that it very nearly did not get published. Authored by the underground December 12 movement, Independent Kenya, circulated in Kenya as a cyclocited book in the early 1980s to avoid Moi's security network. It was through the links that DTM had overseas that it was sponsored by the Journal of African Marxists and published by Z Books. As the book notes, the Kenyan authors of this book have to remain anonymous because they are still in their country. This book highlighted the process of neo-colonialism and the sale of independence by KANU and Jomo Kenyatta. Independent Kenya summed up Kenyatta's rule of loot, murders, and massacres. Umoja's publication, Moi's Reign of Terror, came to define a period in the history of Kenya in a way few other books have done. MRT influenced the minds of people and recorded history that would otherwise have been forgotten. It rightfully belongs to essential reading lists on the history of Kenya after independence. The next book, Shirad Zurani's Kenya's War of Independence, Mau Mau and its Legacy of Resistance to Colonialism and Imperialism. This book restores Kenya's stolen history to its rightful place, stripped of colonial interpretation. It covers Mau Mau's resistance to colonialism and neo-colonialism and reflects on its ideology. The last book is today's book, Ongwen Odwar's 2022, Stronger Than Faith, My Journey for Justice in Repressive Kenya. The title carries two words that define Kenya after independence: repression and the struggle for justice. The book records the author's struggle for social justice during the repressive period of 1970 to 1990. But in doing so, he documents the history of the country in a way that few other authors have done. It is a contest between the pen and the gun that became the struggle during Moi's reign of terror. We feel that the book deserves to be on this list, and we shall see at the end of the event if you agree. Finally, a word about the availability of books published by Vito Books. They are all available for loan at Ukombozi Library, and we welcome anybody who has not joined the library for a small fee to do so. We have over 1,000 books that are relevant to the history of Kenya. Vito Books are also available for purchase at the bookshop mentioned in the brochure that you have been given. And they're also available worldwide from the African Books Collective. Thank you very much. Ukombozi Library is at University Way. It's located at University Way, next to the White Hotel. What is it called? Safari. Yes, next to Lillian Towers. You're all very welcome. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Nasim, for giving us a small background in terms of the work that Vita Books does and why Odoro Ngwen's book, Stronger Than Faith, and we have been told by Mama Wau that what is stronger than faith is what? Did you get that? What is stronger than faith? Patriotism. Yeah, so we want to see at the end of the launch whether this book truly fits the bill as we have been told by Nasim. Now, DJ, where's our thing, you see? Rise, except for His Excellency. Can we rise? There's a reason I'm telling you. I want us to put our hands together and show love to my brother Odoro Ngwen. There's only one person in this room who knows Odoro's baptism name.
No, it's there, the book.
Not everybody has read it. Not everybody has read it. And you know, Odoro, all these members in the struggle, we used to know their baptism name when we used to go to jail to give them bail. That is when we used to know their names. Even Njoki Gedetu has his baptism name. It is actually Oscar or something like that. Okay, so even Mwandawiro, imagine Mwandawiro Julius has a baptism name. So, ladies and gentlemen, Your Excellency, with your permission, I want us to put our hands together to welcome our author, our comrade, and our brother, and our friend, Odoro Ngwen. Put our hands together for Odoro Ngwen. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Take it away, Odoro. Asante sana.
My sister Mudoni, can you join me up? In fact, I think they should not be sitting, isn't it?
Sitwaenda na haki, kufungwa jela, webaki nyuma, sitwaenda na haki, na kupigwa rungu, webaki nyuma, sitwaenda na haki, kupigwa rungu, webaki nyuma, sitwaenda na haki. Twaenda na haki. Hata shimo la tewa, webaki nyuma, sitwaenda na haki. Shimo la tewa, webaki nyuma, sitwaenda na haki. Simama imara. Hey, simama, 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 simama imara. Hey, simama ndugu, simama, simama, simama imara. Oh, simama, 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 simama imara. Hey, ya 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 ya. Oh, ya 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 ya. Pamoja twashinda. Hey, pamoja. Pamoja twashinda. Hey, pamoja ndugu. Pamoja twashinda. Hey, pamoja. Pamoja twashinda. Hey, Viva Wazalendo, viva! Viva Wazalendo, viva! Long live Kenyans, long live! Asanteni. Where I come from, they say if you organize a beer party, you don't get drunk in it. So I will have very few words to say. But before I do so, between the pages of this book, there is somebody Kenyans have been asking. And who is this? I saw a turncoat who is also documented in this book. A person whose things we burned because of betraying the cause of democracy. Asking, who is Makau Mutua? Makau, can you come in 2 minutes, tell them who you are? Comrade. Viva! Forward!
Thank you very much, Odruo. It would not be appropriate for me to tell you who I am. But what I would say is this. A couple of months ago, Odruo told me that he was writing a memoir, an autobiography. And I panicked when I thought about it. And I panicked because we were born in the same year. In my mind, when you write a memoir or an autobiography, it means that the runway that is left between you and the time that you meet your maker is getting shorter and shorter. So I began to think about my mortality. But then I remembered that the written word never dies. And one thing that our country needs to do is to learn how to write and how to write our history. and especially those individuals who have participated in making it. If you look at the bookshelves, I think there are no more than 30 books written by the founding fathers and mothers of this country, which means that our history is taught by others, it's not taught by us, which means that others think for us, we do not think for ourselves. And you know, those who do not think for themselves are dominated by those who do. And so I want to thank my brother, my comrade, Odinga, for having the courage in my generation to write a book about himself, which is really not a book about himself, it's a book about our struggles. And Odinga, I want to say thank you so much to you. And I want to say finally just one thing before I get off the stage. In the history of this country, there has been a struggle between two opposing forces. There is a right and center right, and there is a left and center left. In the recent past, by which I mean the last 25, 30 years, the Honorable Raila Odinga has been the personification of that faction of the country of the left and center left. But I just want to say something else which is more important than even that. And that is that that faction of the left and center left has never been permitted to govern this country, to show what it can do, to liberate this country, to have this country realize its potential. You saw what happened in August. That story is a story of this country's history since its independence. And what I want to say to you, and if you look at my brother's book, we have all the brains, we on the left and center left. But we have not managed to capture the state. And one of the questions we want to ask ourselves is why that is the case. Okay? Why? Is the other side so devious and so organized than us? Or are we so disorganized ourselves? I want to say that Odinga's book shows that we are organized. We drive change. But at the other side, together with the forces of retrogression across the globe, have always denied us our victory. And they did so again this year in August. We saw it at the IBC and we saw it at the Supreme Court. But make no mistake about it, we are not resting. Stay tuned.
Thank you very much, Makau, although you have very, very cleverly evaded telling us who you are. But I want to tell you this. This path we have walked was blessed by the lights of Makau Mutua. Some 41 years ago, to be precise, on 15th of May, 1981, it happened that the KANU regime had decided against the wishes of people of Bondo and Busia South to deny Jaramogi Oginga Odinga in Bondo and William Difu in Busia South a ticket to participate in the elections. And there was also ongoing repression of our doctors, and the doctors had gone on strike. So we, as students of the University of Nairobi, decided to demonstrate against that action. As we were battling with the police along the streets of Nairobi, some 6 students decided to walk to Nation House. That time it was on Tomboya Street. And say, call on the state and university authorities to expel what they call the ringleaders. And they pleaded with the Nation not to publish their names, which Nation honored. It didn't publish their names, but it published their picture. So the following day, which was a Saturday, 16th of May, 1981, 13 students, among them Makau Mutua, were expelled. And because those names were because the picture was published, of course, by breakfast, everybody has to identify those students and their room numbers. One of them was called Moses Wetangula. Another one was called James Kelonye. And another one was called Justin Muturi. That is who Makau Mutua is. And that is what he didn't want to tell you. So when somebody tells you that somebody goes to Harvard and calls himself a professor, you should ask him who drove him to Harvard. I think when Wetangula tweeted that and I replied, he shut up because he knew he was one of the people who drove Makau out of this country. And Your Excellency, as I said, I'm not going to talk much because what I could say is in that book. But there are 3 things I want. Foregoing speakers have said. In this world, you have only 2 choices. You can choose to make a difference. Hello, comrades? You can choose to, or you can choose to be indifferent. The choice is yours. At every stage in our history, there are those who choose to let things be. If we are colonized, good enough. We'll be loyal subjects. If we are oppressed by neo-colonial set, let it be. That's good enough. And we are always told that you must have faith in your leaders because they know better than you. Comrade Waukara has told us that there's something stronger than faith, and that is what we are talking about today. And mine is not about to talk about history, although what I document here has happened. I'm talking about the future of this country. Hello, comrades? It's about the future of this country. Because if we continue talking in past tense, where's the future of this country? Ruth Mumbi, is the struggle dying? Young people who are here, some of these people you see here, and I'm going to call some of them to stand up, can account for what they did with their youth. Our young people, who don't want even to be called the leaders of tomorrow, they are saying they are leaders of today. I'm challenging you to stand and lead this country, because this country is headed to the dogs. This country is dying. And if you don't know, the first act of the known thieves that have now taken the levers of the state. The first act was to legalize genetically modified foods. That is a death sentence to the Kenyan farmer. It's a death sentence to the people of this country. I grew up in a situation where my mother would go to where she was born and borrow seeds to come and plant. With GMOs, we are going to have something called monoculture. Ask yourself why farms like the transnational farms like Monsanto have built serious bases in this country and are pushing us to go for GMOs. In the last chapter of this book, titled The Eating Chiefs, and that is because we covered only some short period. It was less than 3 years into the then new regime. Within those 3 years, more than 22 mega scandals, corruption scandals had taken place. 2 trillion shillings in 3 years. They're there in the last chapter of this book. And that's why we titled it, The New Eating Chiefs. Because where I come from again, there is a group of elders called Odinga. These are elders that judge according to what they receive. Literally translated is like the elders of the stomach. But it's not about corruption, comrades. Corruption, all these things you are seeing, these are symptoms. We must go to the root of how our society is organized and get rid of this cancer. But at every stage we are outmaneuvered. I think for the 7th time, this last week, I spent again reading Jaramogi's Not Yet Uhuru. And you look at how these people resisted the nationalists like Jaramogi who are insisting on true independence. But when, and they were saying even Kenyatta should not be released. But when it became inevitable that Kenya was going to be independent, how they outmaneuvered, captured Kenyatta, and Jaramogi became people's enemy #1, according to them. To the extent that they could even order Kenyatta remove his name from the list of ministers, and Kenyatta could obey. And that is what has happened in this country over and over and over again after independence, and even after we restored multipartyism. Our recent elections were not stolen by Ruto and Gachagua. Ask yourself, if the British High Commissioner could be in a discussion group with Ruto's strategy team. I'm saying this because this is captured. It was there. Discussing strategy long before the elections. Ask yourself the timing of the sending here of the US ambassador to Kenya. His Excellency will confirm. I had to move out of bed. I had just been operated on in August last year. I was still supposed to be out of duty. Then we got information of the tender that was being given to Smartmatic. And we tried. So it's not that we were caught unawares by Smartmatic. But at every stage, they knew what they wanted. Hello, are we? So I'm trying to remind you that if you are not ready for the long haul, my friends, you can surrender. However, when I see the young energies in this room, we have worked with for 40 years and are not giving up. When I see my mentor, my comrade, my boss, Raila Amolo Odinga, not giving up, who are you to do so? Who are you? Somebody told us that the reason why our elections were stolen, and please look at the board of mathematics. You'll see that a former president of the United States of America is a member of the board of mathematics. And is somebody some of you might even have admired. And they said, not again to have a Magufuli in East Africa. So this thing was not being done here in Karen. This was a global conspiracy. I know I'm surprising some of you, but it's the reality. Because I was taught to say what I know. If I didn't know, I wouldn't say it. But let me give you hope. The spirit of the struggle, just like Waukara said, can never die. It is stronger than faith. And there are so many spaces of struggle. One of the spaces is the National Museums of Kenya. Another space is writing history and living that history. Another one is walking the streets and saying no to oppression, no to dictatorship, no to exploitation. But for us to do that, we can't sit at National Museum and agonize. We must organize. As I said, I don't want to get drunk in my own beer party. So I want to ask comrades that have gone through Nyayo House, have gone through committee, have gone through exiles, and those who lived on the other side of prison, like Wahukara, like Ruth Olo, the brother Onyangolo. You know, most of you know his history. I don't know whether Hannah Wangare is here. She didn't come. The daughter to Peter Yankihara. And so on. Can you kindly stand so that these fellow comrades can appreciate you? Warwinu and others, please.
The ones who are in prison and the ones who are on the other side of prison.
Yes.
Yes. Very good.
No, and including, hello, Jaskan, including the young ones here, because they were also on the other side of prison.
Yes.
Yeah.
Very good. Very good.
Viva Revolution, viva!
Viva!
Viva Wazalendo, viva!
Viva!
A luta continua.
Very good. Stay there, stay there. Ni shujaa hodari wetu.
Ni shujaa ngani wetu. Ni shujaa ngani wetu. Ni shujaa. Ndiyo maana tunasema ni shujaa. Ndiyo ndio maana tunasema ni shujaa. Ndio maana tunasema ni shujaa. Ndio maana tunasema ni shujaa. Ni shujaa, ni shujaa na uzalendo. Ni shujaa na ni shujaa. Ni shujaa, ndio maana tunasema ni shujaa. 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 Ni shujaa, Raila wetu ni shujaa. Ni shujaa, ni shujaa na baba wetu ni shujaa. Ni shujaa na baba wetu ni shujaa. Ndio maana shujaa. Ndio maana tunasema ni shujaa. Ndio maana tunasema ni shujaa. Ndio maana tunasema ni shujaa. Kiongozi Raila wetu, kiongozi Raila wetu, kiongozi Raila wetu, kiongozi Raila wetu, kiongozi. Ndio maana tunasema ni shujaa. Ndio maana tunasema ni shujaa. Ndio maana tunasema ni shujaa. Ndio maana tunasema ni shujaa.
Haluta continua. Hello. Hello. It's now more audible, eh? Ladies and gentlemen, Amjambo tena. Wow, this is a wonderful evening. I listened to several comrades here. I feel very inspired what I've heard since I came to this auditorium today. I listened to Wahoo talk like a true revolutionary. And I got very, very encouraged. We have come here today to launch a book stronger than faith. That's Odinga Ngwen. As you can see, I'm the one who wrote the foreword to that book. So can I show you, I've read it from Genesis to Revelation. It is a chronicle of historical facts about our country. It has stated where we've come from and where we're going. I've said before, and Macau repeated it, that from independence right through there have been two forces pulling in opposite direction in our country. One, the forces of retention of the status quo versus the forces for change and development. This struggle has been consistent right from the word go up to now. It has sometimes been peaceful, sometimes it has been violent. It has cost lives of our people sometimes. It's against that background that you can explain several historical facts that have taken place in our country. Assassination of P. Ogama Pinto in 1964, the assassination of Tom Mboya, J.M. Kariuki, and so on and so forth. The political detention that took place from the 60s going upwards. Before independence, the nationalist movement brought our people together to fight for independence from British colonialism. That was a massive movement that united all our people irrespective of their ethnic backgrounds. But immediately independence came, then the differences emerged. The neo-colonial state was recreated. Some colonial laws were introduced in our statutes. The nationalist movement played on the issue of land, which is essentially what the main reason for struggle for independence. The issue was, how do you treat the issue of land? There are those who said, the British came and said, the settlers are trying to leave the country. We are ready to give you a loan to buy the land of the settlers, which had been occupied by the settlers. The nationalist movement was split in this. Those who said, yes, let us take the loan and buy the land to settle our people. Those who said, why should we buy our land from the British? They took it for free. They farmed it for over 60 years. If anything, they're the ones who should pay us compensation. Those forces who said, let us buy, were called the moderates, the pro-capital. The names are known. Those who said, no, let's take the land, those are the extremists, the communists. That is what started the struggle for change and retention of status quo. It has been very consistent. So the world has actually tried to explain it so well in the book. Now I've seen Odinga has got 2 birthdays. I don't know which is which. One is 58, one is 60. But I know that there are so many of my contemporaries who also had several birthdays. The real birthday and the one that were given in school. And this explained how he grew up in the rural area there. His father is 31 years older than his mother. all the same. And he was a Christian who was allowed, because of mutations, to marry in church, although he married more than one wife. And all of them was married them in the church. He has explained that story very well in the book. Then he has come to now the struggle for change. How an event here in Nairobi inspired a young schoolboy who was going to high school to become a revolutionary. The assassination of J.M. Kariuki in Nairobi. It was triggered him to become a revolutionary. But at that time when J.M. was being killed, several things were happening here. So we remember during the debate on the J.M. story, when Martin Shikuku said that you want to kill this place like the way they killed Kanu. And when it was asked to substantiate how Kanu was dead, the speaker, or then who was in the chair, J.M. Sironi, said, you don't have to substantiate the obvious. That earned them detention. They were arrested from within the precincts of parliament and they went to detention. Anyona was also arrested at that time. Ngugi Thiong'o was arrested because he was actually staging a drama out there in Kamiridu, Gai Kandenda. And he went to detention. So that period was a period of arrest and detention without trial. It had been preceded by introduction of what was called the Preservation of Public Security Act of 1966. If you read the Hansard, how they were arguing that the introduction of this law is not intended to deal with innocent people. Ordinary law-abiding citizens have nothing to fear. We are only introducing this. It has already been introduced in several other African countries. Within 2 weeks of passing that law, Jerry Akumu, Pipi Hoko, Oyange Mbaja, Kimani Wanyoike, Kimani Wayaki, Vicky Wachira, all found themselves in detention, including Caroline Okello-Dongo. Then that's now continued. As long as the jail spent 9 years in detention at Chingoneko. Then, of course, comes the banning of KPU. And Yusuf has already told you. He was there himself. He saw the dead bodies. I also saw the dead bodies in Kisumu. They said there were 69. I knew there were more than 100 people who were shot in Kisumu. Udura has chronicled all this in the book. Then you come to 80s. After then the introduction of Section 2A. When we said we want to form a political party, Kenya African Socialist Alliance, we had already drafted the constitution, manifesto. We are going to launch. Juja Nyona was arrested in the morning, taken to detention. The following day, on Tuesday, they went to Parliament and passed Section 2A within half an hour. You cannot form any other political party. You cannot form a political party, and you can also not be elected in KANU unless you are cleared by KANU. So all, therefore, avenues for political change had been closed by the government. Nelson Mandela said, we hate violence. We don't, there's no space in our heart for violence. But then, when all the avenues for peaceful change were locked, and the apartheid regime was meting violence on us, then we decided to answer violence with violence. There are two types of violence. There is oppressive violence that is used by those who are in power to suppress the will of the people. And there's defensive violence that the people use to protect themselves against oppressive violence. The two are not equal. The two are not equal. When all the avenues for change had been closed, Kenyans had no other alternative. It's against that background that you have to understand the event of August 1, 1982. Then now, but before that, people are being arrested. We are sitting with Mukaro Wanganga up there. At night, in the following morning, Mukaro has been taken. It was taken last night. William Tunga, Kaimoji Wachira, Katama Mkangi, Wanyeri Kihoru, all these people have been picked. Alamin Bazrui, and detained without trial. Koigi Amwere, picked up and detained without trial at that time. So, what other option did Kenyans have? Then after that, the arbitrary arrests, people are being arrested, shoved in. You are truly charged with treason. 6 weeks at GSU headquarters, where you're being taken out, interrogated, under duress. They put you there on the wall, tell you that if you don't speak to now, you are dead. And then they pull the trigger and you hear, tap! You think they'll shoot you. And then they bring you back. They will take you and put you down and hit you in most painful part of your body. And then you're going to speak. If you don't speak, you are dead meat. After that, they take you to committee. And you spend there 6 months, trial. You're staying there with those other people who have been condemned. All that. A similar experience for Ongwen, and it's all chronicled in the book there, as a guest of His Majesty's government. So many other Kenyans spent days, years there. But before that, there was a Nyayo House torture chamber, which we will open one day and make it a monument for people to see. They go down to the dungeons of Nyayo House chambers. Other people did not survive it. Some are being taken up to the 23rd story of the Nyayo House, thrown out through the window, and say that they committed suicide. Some people have forgotten this. So many of our youth today don't know what happened in this country. They don't know. They call themselves hustlers. Because they don't know. There's ignorance, and it actually serves the interests of the regime in power to suppress these historical facts. But these are facts which need to be known. We are not here because of generosity of some other people. It was because people suffered so that people, Kenyans, can enjoy the freedom that they have today. And if it is not protected, we are likely to go back to where we came from. So Kenyans therefore must stand up and be prepared to take further compromises to consolidate this democratic space. We know in the course of this struggle, there have been compromises. Compromises are sometimes called for in a struggle. We have had to, the left, as Pascal told you, has sometimes to make compromises with the right, so that you can the struggle can continue. The Italian leader of the Communist Party, Palmiro Togliatti, talked of compromiso historical compromise. When sometimes the left compromise with the right in order to be able to advance forward. But that doesn't mean that you surrender or you compromise your principles. You do that so that you're able to achieve the objective of getting the movement forward. This is what has happened in this country. When we talked to Nyayo, formed an alliance with him, was because we wanted to show him the way out. At the end, we came up with a bigger movement and we showed him the way out and we moved Kanu from power up to today. So we have a duty as a people to consolidate the gains and to expand. The left must remain focused. The right wing that has always been in collision with the international monopoly capital is always there. Do you know that? God has told you what has happened here. The right-wing coup d'etat, electoral coup d'etat that took place on the 5th of, no, not on the 5th, on the 15th of August. You saw the chairman of the Electoral Commission running like a thief to go and announce the results. And the bigger part of the commission saying, no, these are not the results. The international community cannot condemn that kind of action. Why? Because they knew what was happening. It can only happen in Africa. It cannot happen in Europe. It cannot happen in the United States. It is only here is where the chairman of Electoral Commission goes alone with the chairman of 7 commissioners. But he goes alone there to announce the results, and then they say he's the hero of the day. Instead of saying he's the devil of the day. So we have a job to do. What options do you have? One of them is not surrender. Surrender is not in our vocabulary. We must say that, as we are saying, that the African democratization project must move on. There will be setbacks here and there. You've seen in other countries the military coups returning. The generals are coming back. They come back and they're being greeted with flowers by the population. What is it that has gone wrong? We know what has gone wrong in some of our African countries. But that does not mean that we surrender. We must just regroup and move on. Because Africa has great potential. The richest continent in terms of resources is also the poorest. Why? Because true African democrats who believe in Africa and using African wealth for the benefit of the African people have not been able to get power to do so. And the international monopoly capital is not comfortable. When you're talking about making Kenya a manufacturing hub to supply the whole of the Eastern and Central African region, those people are not happy with you. That is the language they don't want to hear. When you're talking about beneficiation, value addition to local raw materials, so that you don't export bauxite, you export aluminum products. You don't export copper ore, you export copper products, including cables. You don't export iron ore, you export steel. You don't export There's coffee seeds. You talk processed coffee, and so on and so forth. That is going to competition against international monopoly capital. And that is the problem that we are going through. That is the reason why they don't want us to go in there. But we cannot forever remain servants of international monopoly capital. Africans must rise up. And there is a solution to this. Those stooges don't look at this, what's happening here. Basically, stooges have been used. But if this does not work, this other one will work. And we know what will work. That's why we are saying that, comrades, there's still work to do. It is work in progress. Comrades must come together, gather together and move forward. Victory is coming. Victory is certain. We have a right. When those days when the lion was more fierce, the lion had the claws and the teeth to bite. We were able to confront that lion. Now we have got Simba Kibogoyo. We will move on. We will move on as a people of Kenya. And I'm certain that eventually the people of Kenya will succeed. Those days, we stood up against Nyayo. And you remember we were singing, Nipigwe teke sitarudi nyuma, oh nipigwe teke nipigwe jela rudi nyuma, oh nifungwe jela nipelekwe shimo nipelekwe Naivasha. Hata Nyayo waseme, hata Nyayo waseme, hata Nyayo waseme, sisa tutarudi nyuma. Hata Nyayo waseme, hata Nyayo waseme, hata Nyayo waseme, sisa tutarudi nyuma. Comrades, power. A luta continua. A luta continua. I now have the pleasure to do the book launch.
Tutasonga kwa siasa nzuri, tukomboe Afrika na wananchi wote. Tutasonga kwa siasa nzuri, tukomboe Afrika na wananchi wote. Tutasonga kwa siasa nzuri, tukomboe Afrika na wananchi wote. Tutasonga kwa siasa nzuri, tukomboe Afrika na wananchi wote. Mandera tuingie kwa siasa nzuri, kwa siasa nzuri. Hey! Tutasonga kwa siasa nzuri, tukomboe Afrika na wananchi wote. Tutasonga kwa siasa nzuri, tukomboe Afrika na wananchi wote. Hivyo tutafika kwa siasa nzuri, kwa siasa nzuri. Hey! Tutasonga kwa siasa nzuri, tukomboe Afrika na wananchi wote. Tutasonga kwa siasa nzuri. Okay, take over.
Baba, viva comrades, viva! Power to the liberators, power! Forward with the liberation struggle, forward! Comrade Baba, yeah, I have a pleasure. You know, this is a liberated space. And I celebrate that I'm among the youngest comrades, your offsprings. And we thank you, Baba, we celebrate you. And thank you, Comrade Odorongwen, for giving us a pleasure to learn about our history. As you know, my name is Ruth Mombi. I'm the mother of the nation, the daughters from Mount Kenya, and we want to do a small ritual. Tukiwa hapa, we have all agreed that the struggle must continue. And the struggle will only continue if we drink from the wisdom, the cup of wisdom, and the energy, positive energy, the power, the intelligence, and the resilience, and the resistance that Baba, you have always showed. And on this honor, before we start our ritual, while Baba was talking, I was like, why can't we have a Raila Odinga fellowship for young cadres to understand, to be grounded ideologically? Because what I've come to realize that we have learned fools in Africa who don't know about their struggle, who don't know about their heroes. So it's time as Africa, it's time as Kenyans, we must know our struggle and we must know who our real heroes are. And Baba is among our heroes. And I was also sent by the young cadres, they are here. They want to come and pay a courtesy visit to you, Baba, if you allow. We want to drink in a circle with you from the cup of wisdom. And it is my honor to invite Betty. You have to light Baba's candle. I'll also invite Mama Wahukara. She taught me to be proud of who I am. I forgot to say I'm a Kikuyu woman, an African Kikuyu woman. From Mama Wahu, I also want to invite Mheshimiwa Tafadhali, because we are building this struggle. It's about continuity of the struggle. Kindly come. Nosim, you represent us as the young cadres. Kindly come over.
Niombe walioitwa tujaribu kufanya kwa upesi kidogo.
Yeah.
Ili tusonge.
Betty, can you light Baba's candle?
As we light this candle, I want us to go deep inside and tell ourselves that may the fire of revolution never go off. We are here because there are many people, but specifically there are those who came before us. So I light these candles in respect of those who came before us, in honor of the fight, in honor of the strength they had, that our strength be renewed. Thank you. Mombi.
Mama Wahu, light your candle from Baba.
Niombe tupige makofi mazuri wakati hiyo inaendelea. Na bandi ya marshals mukiendelea kwa umbali.
Comrade Odor also follow suit. Mheshimiwa. No sim, no sim.
Those in the audience, may I request you stand up and hold up your candle high. Tuimbe kwa pamoja wanapoimba kifungu cha mwisho. Asante sana. Amba, 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 amba. Viva, comrades, viva! Viva, comrades, viva! Forward with the revolution, forward! Nataka kuambia, hiyo flame imetoka kwa baba, ikikuja kwa kila mmoja wenyu. It means you are sending a message to our tormentors. Let them know the revolution has only been delayed. Revolution inakuja. Na hiyo flame, let's keep that fire burning. Father showed us the way. Baba alituonyesha njia. Na sisi tufuate njia. Tusitoke ama tulegalege. Tukae katika hiyo njia baba alituonyesha. Viva baba, viva! Forward with baba ideology, forward! Forward with revolution, forward! Thank you. Asante. Na ningeomba usaidie kushika hiyo. Na ili tumalize hafla hii rasmi, niombe bendi itupe wimbo wa taifa itakayoashiria mwisho wa hafla ya siku ya leo. Marshall's Band, wimbo wa taifa. Nitaomba wimbo wa taifa. Iwe ngao na mlinzi na tukae na undugu, amani na uhuru, raha tupate na ustawi. Asante sana, na niombe tumruhusu mgeni wa heshima Injinia Daktari Raila Odinga kupata
kuketi na kuondoka kwa njia isiyokuwa na mushkili. Asante sana mgeni wetu wa heshima.